Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ahmed Odunton speaking on Nigeria's economy as a mockery of capitalism. I was on a mission to developing a manual devoted to the art and science of nation building when my thoughts stumbled on the centerpiece of every nation's superstructure, which is the economy. The relentless waves of crushing economic woes Nigerians continue to suffer must have swayed my mind in this direction. Wikipedia says capitalism is an economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and the operation for profits. The central characteristics of capitalism includes capital accumulation, free and competitive markets, recognition of private property rights, voluntary exchange, and wage labor. Historically, capitalism as a means of production succeeded feudalism, wherein the mode of production was previously based on land ownership and serfdom. The feudal basis of production was essentially agrarian. Capitalism reared its head in the 16th century England as a result of the dialectical friction between the actors of production vis-a-vis the feudal lords and their serfs. So this schism freed the serfs from their ties to the land. Serfs would then become workers, thus earning mobility and freedom to take their labor wherever it was needed and earn wages for labor. Capitalism rapidly spread like wildfire, flourished, and climaxed into the Industrial Revolution of the 18th century, which consolidated capitalism into the preeminent means of production, thereby dealing a finite and fatal blow to feudalism. Capitalism will reach the nook and crannies of the world between the 19th and 20th century as the preeminent means of production. But its own internal dialectical contradictions led to socialism and advanced into communism in some pockets of the world. But these ideological responses to capitalism is not within the radar of this discourse. In a daily pondering over the challenges faced by our nation and a patriotic attempt at deconstruction, I was accidentally struck by the rhetorical question of whether Nigeria is even a capitalist economy. In an attempt to find an answer, I realized that a lifetime of Western education has lulled us into a slumbering belief that we are a capitalist or mixed economy. Fortunately, however, we human beings are intellectual ruminants. We have the advantageous ability to chew the cud of knowledge and, if necessary, to vomit previous poisonous knowledge, no matter how long we have carried them in our heads and hearts. So, to be able to do justice to the question, I availed myself the tools of problem tree analysis. Historical rumination also took me on a time travel. Then I remembered that the economic relations, that is the means of production that existed in African society prior to contact with Europe, was largely communalism, and very few instances of some societies taking baby steps towards feudalism. So Africa, pre-transatlantic slavery, was glued together by a strong sense of brotherhood, community, and had barely made a natural transition to feudalism, talk less of the individualistic and egocentric oriented capitalism, where we was concussed with 450 years of slavery, which was immediately followed by another 80 years of direct colonial subjugation. So 530 years of traumatic experience that interrupted, stunted, and stalled the natural evolution that every society needs to go through in order to guarantee a healthy development. Yes, so far, so bad. We have had centuries of economic contacts with European capitalism. However, if we choose to wake up, if we choose to chew our intellectual cord, we cannot fail to recognize that what was imported to Africa is a million miles remote from European capitalism. It was, and to this day, the capitalism. So, after hours of philosophic diagnosis of our visible and invisible symptoms and history, my hypothesis is that Nigeria and our sisters are a bunch of the capitalist economy. The capitalism being a system of bloodshed whereby different African societies were patched together into administrative and geographical concoction and then viciously decapitated and decapitalized for centuries. So, by forcefully exporting millions of irreplaceable manpower resources, labor, a key factor in economic development, and also illegitimately expatriating humongous tons of natural resources that defies mathematical computation. European vampires, popularly referred to as empires, decapitalized Africa, decapitated Africa with vampiric efficiency. A system that is still effectively perpetuated as we speak by various instruments of liberal economics, Bretton Woods, financial institutions, a subtle global division of labor, etc., which is the design of this political hegemony. Before we are lost in this maze, this intellectual maze, it is important that we at once launch an intellectual assault on the rhetorical question as to whether Nigeria is a capitalist economy. So, for the sacred sake of scientific objectivity, it is strategically important that we abandon every yoke and token of ideological bias while this discourse lasts. We cannot ignore the fact that, despite its stinky armpits, capitalism has its own unique beauty. While there is a bipartisan acknowledgement that it inspires and inflames individual genius for the creation of wealth, the depressive consensus is that its insatiable bourgeois accumulation of wealth widens in excess of 1 million miles. The cleavage between the rich and the wretched, the haves and the have-nots. Agreeing that this is not paradise, we cannot expect a perfect ideology. Then at least we must begin a hunt for the beautiful indices of an ideal capitalism. At the end of our game, we should have wealth creation, bourgeois wealth accumulation, a growing middle class, a thriving or hopeful SMEs, industrialization, or a forward march towards industrialization. In short, the quadruplet factors of production of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship are at present on life support. While we may boast of the abundance of the first two, can we boast of the access to capital needed to acquire them? Our army of well-educated and skilled, unemployed and underemployed youth are busy investing their energies on every and any avenue to japa in a desperate search for greener pasture. This large-scale brain drain, trained for a minimum of 12 to 16 years with state resources, spells not boom but doom for any economy, be it capitalism or socialism. So, capital, which is the spinal cord of capitalism and the de facto fulcrum of the factors of production, is the key to acquiring land, labor, and also inspiring entrepreneurship. That capital is unfortunately stuck in the hands of too few people. Capital is the blood of capitalism. For a capitalist economy to thrive, capital flow is not negotiable. Unfortunately, that capital, instead of flowing, is housed in the private, domestic, and foreign accounts of unaccountable politicians and thousands of high-ranking civil and public officials. Worse still, that capital is untraceably stashed in their bunkers and their septic tanks instead of banks. So, decades of serial stealing, serial capital concealment, congealment, outflow, and lack of flow is the cause of our present economic stroke. Our continuous scramble for and reliance on the transfusion of foreign loans, foreign direct investments, foreign aid, foreign importation is exactly what it is: foreign. Foreign to our national interest, foreign to our political and economic security. It only continues to service the greed of the political greed, the elite, whose appetite is ultra-vampiric. Their appetite is worse than that of a vampire. They are like pigs who will not spare their piglets if threatened by a wanting demonic desire to eat. Ẹlẹ́dẹ̀ ni wọ́n, tẹ́bí bá pa wọ́n pẹ́rẹ́, gbogbo ọmọ wọn ni wọ́n máa jẹ. Such is the nature of their greed. So, in the absence of capital liquidity, enterprise is stunted. The economy is greeted with the concomitant death of entrepreneurship. So, instead of inspiring entrepreneurial genius, millions of able-bodied and skilled men and women have been reduced and recruited into criminal and anti-social enterprises for the sake of survival. Thus, in tackling this rhetorical question as to whether we are a capitalist or mixed economy, the result of my objective and thorough diagnosis is that the Nigerian economy, in its anemic condition and amoebic constitution, has not won the beautiful badges of a capitalist economy. Our country has been for centuries and is still effectively practicing the capitalism. So, what can be done? From the above, it is crystal clear to the visually impaired and the mentally challenged that capital flow, or more technically stated, capital liquidity, is an indispensable factor to economic health or mishealth. At least we have a consensus that our nation is mired in a quagmire, that our situation is dire. I can assure you that our prescriptions are neither going to be sweet nor simple like ABC, but what matters is patriotic intent. Our economy suffers advanced cancer, and at the heart of that cancer is corruption. If only we can treat that, right? That alone, we have a chance of standing, walking again, and running on the highway of recovery. So, despite the work of our anti-corruption agencies, we have neither seen tangible improvements nor hope of recovery. Therefore, a new approach to fighting this carcinogenic and terminal threat is needed. Our twin anti-graft agencies has a combined 44 years of activity, 23 and 21 years other piece. So they must have an encyclopedia of names of state and non-state actors and actresses, present, recent, past, alive or dead, who are the masterminds of these capital clots. So bargaining with criminals sounds immoral, but under our circumstances, this fashion bargain remains the viable legal instrument, considering the fact that our billions of dollars stashed away in foreign banks have legal protection. The clear fact that it is stolen wealth does not automatically extend to us, the state, the instrument of violence to break into those banks. Even the domestic banks, which has billions of stolen dollars hiding in their safes, cannot be broken into by the states. And do not forget the untraceable billions of billions stashed in secret bunkers and septic tanks. So I repeat, for the sacred sake of capital flow, which is the cure of our economic stroke, we have an immediate, strategic, and utilitarian choice to enter a Faustian bargain with those who have taken virtually everything from us. Thank you for your time. Ahmed Odunton. Good day.